but you know.
Okay. So, first and foremost, I do want to thank you for joining Toxin and being here to tell us a little about who you are and who you represent. Now, for people who may not know who you are, could you tell us who you are and the organization you represent?
Okay, the organization I represent, that will definitely be interesting because it's a whole lot of organizations.
Okay.
But my government name, as they say, is Julius David Jackson Jr. I am a minister, pastor now, so I'll be referred to as Pastor Reverend J.D. Jackson Jr. But I'm fine with just JD. I don't need any titles or any of that stuff. But organizations, if I go down the list, I'm currently pastor of Trinity Emmanuel Presbyterian Church here in Rochester. And I am also a chaplain at St. John's Nursing Home. I am a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the Eta Rho Lambda chapter that's here in Rochester, New York. I am a past president, past historian, past vice president, kind of you name it. And also a member of Eureka Lodge, Prince Hall Masons, also a past master there, which is just the ancient name for their presiding officer, which would be the president, equivalent to a president. So I think that's kind of covering most of it. There may be something else that.
Okay, okay. So I have had the pleasure of meeting up with you a few times. So tell me a little about being a pastor, because you seem kind of unorthodox, if I will. Tell us a little about that and how you became a pastor.
Okay, I like to refer to it as a bit of a stealth move. I'd always said, well, I'm a preacher's kid, of course. My dad was Reverend J.D. Jackson, senior pastor of Mount Vernon, and I wanted nothing to do with ministry. I can't even tell you I like public speaking at all. And growing up, being a preacher's kid and seeing what my dad do, he was the kind of fire and brimstone hooper and all that. That doesn't fit my profile. I'm a natural introvert, so I had no desire to do any of that. Anything that was even going on at the church when my dad was a pastor, it's like, okay, I want nothing to do with that. I did sing in the choir, but it was more like a Milli Vanilli lip syncing thing. It was on several other committees and different things at the church, but again, not necessarily my forte. But later in life, after doing some other things, I worked at Xerox for a number of years, did some community action agency work, Action for a Better Community, even worked at AIDS Care before it became Trillium Health. And there I decided, I want to do something for me. So I was under a delusion and entered Colgate thinking, okay, I'm just going here to get some historical knowledge, increase my faith, perhaps. I have no desire to be in anybody's pulpit. So I hope that never happens. But the stealth move came like within, 2 years of being at Colgate. People started asking me to come speak. And it's like, okay, I can do that. I can probably do that. And next thing you know, you kind of get that calm that surpasses all understanding, and you know that this is where you're supposed to be. So the rest is kind of history from there. Straight out of divinity school in 2013, I was a pastor and went to East Aurora, which I had never even heard of, and pastoring at church, Disciples of Christ denomination that I'd never heard of either. So again, fast forward to now, I have been a pastor at the Disciples of Christ Church. I was there for 3 years. Also, I came back here and was a United Church of Christ pastor for a short time. And then after that, said I was going to take a little break, but God saw different. And now I'm a Presbyterian pastor. My background is Baptist. I'm ordained United Church of Christ. All of these things I had never envisioned for my life. But again, I just have that peace that passes all understanding again. And the unorthodox part, to answer your question, I'm still me. God knew what he was getting when he chose me. So I try to be as much true to myself and true to God and in all that I do. So that's me.
So, how do you compare yourself to the pastors that are currently out there? I see a lot of pastors in the community vocal about certain topics. How do you compare yourself to them? And are you silent on some of the topics that they are so vocal about?
Well, I think we all have our different gifts. Again, I am not necessarily out on the street preaching, but on a Sunday morning, I hold no bars, no holds barred with what I say. We go through the airwaves now. We're not open currently, so we do produce our worship service online. So YouTube, Facebook, what have you. I voice my opinion and what I feel God gives me on all of these issues, on racism, sexism, what have you. I'm opposed to any of those things. You know that some others may find controversial. I mean, LGBTQ issues are definitely some things that historically folks of color shy away from discussing, but I have no problem discussing those things and supporting any. We have the Asian um, racism that's on the rise, but for me, I feel that we're all one people. So anything that's affecting any of these groups, I may not be naturalized a part of them, but we're all one people. So I feel that should affect me. If it doesn't, then I think I'm not living my life true to what God would have me to live it as.
So, most people may know you because you are credited for the Frederick Douglass statue.
Yes.
Tell us a little about how that came about and your desire or your curiosity with Frederick Douglass. Is that a great word to say?
Sure, that we can work with that, and I like to make sure I differentiate. There's a beautiful thing done here in Rochester. Olivia Kim did some replica statues all over town. I think there's about 14 or 15 of those. But the claim to fame, if you will, for me was the monument. That's the original in Highland Park, and of course I didn't I didn't develop that monument.
That's correct.
That was something that was brought forth through my predecessor at Eureka Lodge. He was the fifth worshipful master. I was the 70th, and John W. Thompson is his name. He had the dream to have a statue or monument in Rochester representing the colored troops that weren't represented in the monument that you see for Abraham Lincoln in Washington Square Park.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a lot of demonstrations out there, but folks probably don't look up and notice that that's Lincoln up there at the top. But at the bottom, you'll see all of the soldiers there from the Civil War, and there's no people of color there. So John W. Thompson had the dream to erect a monument in representation of the colored troops that fought in that war. He passed this by Frederick Douglass himself, and Frederick Douglass co-signed on it. But in the midst of him, producing this monument, things changed when Frederick Douglass passed. So the monument changed focus, and it became a monument for Frederick Douglass. This monument was originally erected over on Central Avenue, or Central Park, if I'm getting that correct, in front of the train station, the gateway to Rochester. They erected the first statue monument in the country for this Black hero, Frederick Douglass. Some years later, 1941, they decided that they were going to move it to Highland Park. In Highland Park, it stood until for someone had a dream, until I had the dream to put some illumination to it. So it stood in the park there until 2006. 2000, well, it stood there till, it was moved last year actually. But in 2006, I attended the groundbreaking for the Martin Luther King Memorial in Washington, D.C. And the reason I was there was because being a part of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, I was given the charge when I joined that organization to raise funds for the monument to Martin Luther King. So being there as a VIP, what have you at this big event in Washington, D.C., I heard the words of my brother, Andrew Young, my frat brother, who was a contemporary of Martin Luther King. He took the stage and stated, we're turning the dirt here for Martin Luther King, but return back to your homes and continue turning the dirt. And that inspired me, to come back here. And it's like, okay, we got Frederick Douglass here, he's out here in the dark in Highland Park. This is kind of silly, first monument erected to a Black man in the country and nobody even knows he's here. So that's when, I contacted some folks, Harry Bronson, who was a county legislator at the time, and now he's a state legislator. He was one of the ones who supported that, got some funds together, and has been, with this project from the beginning. Last year, Larry Staub, who was with the county, he said, okay, this is a great dream you have to light the monument, but I'm going to take it a step further. We got the funds here. We're going to make a plaza. So that's what you see now. It's not only illuminated out there in the park, the monument's been moved. It's right at the corner of Robinson Drive and South Avenue. We've got a beautiful plaza there, and Frederick Douglass sees some light when it turns dark at night. So thank you, Larry Staub, and all those other folks who were there to make sure that dream was fulfilled.
Okay. Now, recently, I know there was some type of controversy as far as the airport being renamed after Frederick Douglass. I know that some of the legislators that were involved in changing the name were not invited to the ceremony. Were you aware of that at the time? And if not, how did you discover that they were not invited?
Yeah, and to back up, the dream I had even prior to lighting the monument was the dream to rename the airport. That's an imprint as well in About Time magazine, and they got the name right as well, the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport. The reason that that was somewhat sidelined for the other project was it caught steam. But I brought Emmett Burns here with the help of the Frederick Douglass Resource Center that was around at the time. They funded to bring Emmett Burns here, who was the orchestrator of the Thurgood Marshall Airport, the Baltimore Washington International Airport. He came and talked to us and, gave us the way he did the Baltimore Washington Airport. So we were going to use that same paradigm to name Rochester's airport. But again, people scoffed at it. What does Frederick Douglass have to do with the airport? JD, you're crazy. Why would you, even pursue something like that? But it's still a dream of mine. So, I still kept mentioning it. We had Richard Glazer, who decided to do a petition online. Once he did that petition, things caught fire. Everybody was like, oh yes, we got to do that. And I'm thinking it was because of, the bicentennial of Frederick Douglass's birth, and seeing some of those other replica statues and a lot of other things highlighting Douglas's prominence here in Rochester that caught a hold. But nevertheless, Adam Bello decided to co-sign on getting this done, which is a great thing. The controversy with the airport renaming officially came when, as I was informed, it was a press conference. We're come out to a press conference, and we're going to talk about the renaming of the airport. So I'm thinking, okay, we're going to go out here and hear about what they're going to do to make this happen officially. Once I got there, it was okay. We're going to take you out to a sign, and it was unveiled. It's like, oh, this is interesting. We're going to get you on the shuttle and take you over to the sign for the unveiling of the sign. And it's like, okay, and again, naturally I was excited, to go see the sign. But, after the fact, that there's a realization, okay, no, there's none of the other legislators that were involved in this here. I didn't know why they weren't there. That day, of course, it was a Sunday. It happened to be Frederick Douglass's birthday. So my mind was on other things. My focus was different. I had my event that I was doing at the monument. So I'm concerned about, okay, all of the people that were invited to that being there. So I'm, again, thinking press conference. I'm not thinking anything other than that. And of course, I had to do my duty to the church even earlier than that. So, naturally, you only have a limited amount of brain space for all of these different things happening at the same time. But nevertheless, after the fact, when the controversy happened, was the legislators saying that they didn't get an invite. I know with COVID happening and everything, I figured maybe, and I actually have to be honest, I did not think about it at the time. But with COVID happening, it's like, okay, there's limited capacity for different things. Maybe these people just didn't want to come out because of COVID. I really didn't know. So.
And just to set the record straight, it wasn't your event. It was something that you were invited to, correct?
Exactly, correct. Like I said, my event was what was going on at the monument later. So I had nothing to do with the invitations. I was an invited guest.
You did receive some heat for being at the ceremony for the renaming of the airport. How did you handle that controversy?
You just kind of let the record show for itself. Uh, I don't know who made this quote, but it's like, when you wrestle with a pig, you get dirty, or if you wrestle with a fool, and I'm not calling anybody a fool here, but when you're arguing with a fool, sometimes it makes it difficult to determine who is who. So I didn't put myself out there to talk about stuff I didn't know. Whether folks find that is,
Yeah, I think Mayor Warren made that a little famous not that long ago when she actually called a activist a pig during a press conference.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah. Well. To give credit where it's due, that came out
I will give
way
Mayor
before
Warren.
any of us were thought of.
Yeah, I will give Mayor Warren credit for that slogan because I had never heard it prior to that day.
Yeah, but it's a very old one.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess what they say, great minds think alike. So yeah, but yeah.
So at this point,
okay,
you have a lot of political connections. Like you said, Adam Bello contacted you and let you know about the ceremony. How did those political connections come about?
Just being, a person in the community. I like to believe that most people know me as a person that's real and genuine. I don't care what political party you're in. I treat you like a human being if you're doing the same to me. And even those times when you may not be, I'm true to who I am. I try to treat people as I would like to be treated. So even if you're doing me foul, again, like in this instance, there were some people who, tried to put mud on my name for something I had nothing to do with, but still love them still, and that's just the way I carry myself.
So you're not very vocal about things that are happening in the community as far as I can see, as far as like police shootings. I don't really see you saying anything about that. Now, there have been complaints with activists about the church remaining silent on major issues that's going on. What would you say to those people?
Okay. Well, like I said before, my pulpit is my platform. You're not going to see me out on the street. I think that should be left more to younger folks. But I definitely support, protests. I don't support riots. I have friendships with Myra Washington and all of those folks in the Black Lives Matter protests, and I support them full heartedly. And like I said, you can go through sermons that I do on Sunday morning, and I don't think anybody would think that I am opposed to any of that. I think protest is the voice of the voiceless. When you can't be heard in any other means, the Colin Kaepernicks of the world, you got to get your voice heard some way or another. Like I said, I am not in support of looting and rioting, but protesting, if I can be so blunt, hell yes.
So
I'm not going to go Kirk Franklin or anything, but yeah.
sometimes you have to appreciate a Kirk Franklin, right?
Yes.
No matter how crazy it seems.
Exactly. Sometimes
Well,
that's needed.
right.
And
Right.
I'll say no more on that.
I know, right? We still have to stay away from that.
Right.
But as a pastor, right, you have a duty to the community.
Right.
So when you hear people with these complaints and you see so many younger people avoiding the church, how do you kind of bring those people together to kind of keep the church going? Because at this rate, there are mainly older people in the church. You have less younger people. How do you connect with the younger generation if you're not in the community and kind of representing what they're trying to do at this point?
Okay. Well, again, for me, the biking group, and I apologize for not remembering their names, but when asked, I come out. I'm not necessarily, again, one in the crowd, just because the time of my life doesn't yield that. So if somebody asks me to come out and speak, I'll gladly try to work that in my schedule if possible. Like I said, the biking group, they are all over town doing messaging on some of these issues. I went and spoke for them. I was contacted by the Black Lives Matter group that is also affiliated with the Historical Italian American Neighborhood Association, I think it is. Again,
Okay.
I'm hashing up their name as well. But last week we had a little prayer um, event out in front of the stadium over in that neighborhood, and I I'm out there when I'm called to a specific event and it fits in my calendar, But again, I am just at the point in my life where I can't go to everything. Anytime anybody mentions something happening, I can't be out on the highway,
No, I
at
understand.
10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning. That's just, yeah.
No, I know. I'm not really an activist. I'm somebody who I try to be vocal, but I'm not somebody that will be out protesting and carrying signs. Like,
Right.
I will talk about issues that affect our community, but I'm not the type of person to go out and protest.
Okay.
So
So
I
so
can
you
I can
so you
relate.
fully relate.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
relate to like standing back and trying to, put the information out there, but not necessarily being on the front lines.
right.
Not
Yeah.
really my thing, but
Yeah,
I
and that's important too.
right,
I mean, a lot of people are going to, just catch like little snippets of what's on the television and different things. But if you put things in writing, some other people might notice.
right,
My platform in the pulpit. Those are some folks that are listening to me that may not be listening to you, listening to TV, or you know,
right.
listening if I'm out on the street. They're going to be like, okay, why do you have your so and so out there on the street when you're supposed to be, pastoring this church, doing this, that, and the other thing? So, you know, I try to stay in my lane as much as possible, but again, maintaining, my trueness to God and myself.
Right. Now, do you have any political aspirations?
I have been approached to, possibly run for something. Just like this ministry thing, I'm not running to it. If something comes, I believe that God will show me that, and I'll just have to follow. But for me personally, I have no desire to run for any kind of political office.
So hypothetically, right, what position could you actually see yourself in?
That's a great question. Again, with not desiring it, it's kind of hard to say.
Okay.
There may be something that I've never thought of that will come knocking at my door, and it's like, oh, okay, I'll know at that point. That's just how things have been, unfolded in my life. It'll show up whatever it is, you know. Yeah, and it may be something that hasn't even been created yet.
You're right.
You
You
know,
never know, right?
yeah. So 5 years, they'll have some new title for something, and it's like, oh, I guess that's what I'm supposed to be doing. But right now, I'm comfortable, being me in the role that I'm playing right now.
So, what would you like people to know about who Julius D. Jackson really is?
I'm hoping that most folks will come to realize that Julius D. Jackson Jr. was a genuine individual who tried to help folks, in this life. Like I said, the pebble on the ocean. I'm just one little small factor, but I'm hoping that there's a ripple effect that is a positive ripple effect that helps others that come along. I stand on the shoulders of many, many giants who helped me along the way, and I'm hoping that my life is helping someone else and those who come way after me. You know, so that's my thought. Like the song, I'm hoping that as I travel along, I can help somebody, cheer somebody with a word or song. Not necessarily a song because I'm not really a singer. That might be hurtful to some ears, but nevertheless, I'm hoping that my living is not in vain because I tried to help somebody.
So, what are your most memorable or the proudest moments that happened in your life that you want people to kind of know about?
Well, again, the Frederick Douglass pieces most definitely, those are proud moments for me internally. So the airport, the monument. Currently, I'm hoping to get some lights on the gravesite. I have a call into the city, and hopefully that will reach fruition as well. Of course, I'm a family guy. I have two boys. Pretty much anything that they do is a highlight for me. One is an Eagle Scout. The other is pursuing his Eagle. And with the first one, when he became an Eagle Scout, that was a very proud moment for me. I I guess I'm not one that's shedding tears a lot, but it was rough, almost trying to hold back some tears on that moment. And graduation from high school when he graduated, and again, anything that they do is positive for me. Back to those shoulders on whose I stand. my dad was great shoulders for me when we were able to honorarily name the street Joseph Avenue for him. That was a very proud moment. That was back in 1999. And it's funny, people say, do you have a street named after you? Because a lot of people, now 20 years later, have no clue of who my dad was.
Mhm.
But that's something that shows that he was around at that time. And that's a proud moment for me. And
Well, tell us a little about your dad and who he was.
oh, well, my dad was pastor of Mount Vernon Baptist Church. He came from Monroe, Louisiana in 1966 to be pastor of that church. And up until 1995, I believe it was, he was pastor of that church. In 93, he had a stroke and was incapacitated. So his ministry at the church pretty much stopped at that point. But up until that point, he was in the pulpit at Mount Vernon. In 1971, Mount Vernon was bombed. A lot of folks have forgotten that history. And in 1971, after that church was bombed, he still kept the congregation together as they met at different other facilities until the church was remodeled. 1976, 77, they went back to that same location right there at the corner of Upper Falls and Joseph Avenue. And he held them together that whole time. He passed May 22nd, 1999. And still, those who remember him, he's a beloved piece of their heart. I definitely ride on his coattails in a lot of instances. A lot of doors have been opened for me because of those folks who recognize J.D. Jackson Sr. So I thank my dad for that.
Now, you stated that the church was bombed.
The church was bombed. It was never solved, but there was a lot of things going on in 71, mobster things. There's a couple of mobsters that were killed here in Rochester. And the general thought is that there was perhaps a testing of bombing, and Mount Vernon was just a casualty. There was a Muslim temple that was close by also that was completely demolished. But with Mount Vernon, they were able to rehab that after 6-7 years, and they went back to that facility, which is a beautiful centerpiece there at the corner of Upper Falls and Joseph. And that's the portion of the street that's renamed for my dad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, when you think about that time and you compare it to now with the racism that's going on, uh, police brutality, excessive force, all of these things that's happening, what do you think? And you were a little boy at the time, but when you think about those times then and you compare it to now, what are your thoughts? And do you see any progression?
It's kind of sad when you like go back and well, I was very young at that time, when the bombing happened, but you read some of the headlines and different things and some of the things that the politicians were saying back then. It's very similar to what they're saying now. And there's some sadness there. I'd like to believe that we have progressed some. You don't have the segregationist type of things, but there's still a lot of what's the word? Disparities. There's a lot of disparities amongst different people, different races and things in our community. And it's kind of sad that we haven't fully overcome yet. But I'm still hopeful that we will get there.
So, recently that former Mayor Bill Johnson released a report on the Rays Commission. Are you
Okay.
aware of that?
No, I'm not. Bill's another friend of mine, also a lodge brother, but I haven't read that report yet.
So the report is stating that there are factors that play into the disparities and poverty in Rochester, New York.
Okay.
So from your experience, have you seen like racism up close and personal?
Throughout my life, indeed I have, and I was just telling someone about an incident that happened to me specifically. This was some years ago, but I had a police incident. I was coming from a friend's home, later at night, and I got in my car and I looked up, and a police had his gun drawn on me as I'm getting ready to start up my car, and he's yelling at me, get out of the car. So of course, to make a long story short, I end up in the back of this police car, and he's saying things to me like, "Oh, you look like someone who shot a cop," and things of this nature. And I'm, just kind of being my chill self. And again, like I said, this is some years ago, so some of the details may be fuzzy, but the end thing that he was detaining me for was because my car was just a few inches close to somebody's driveway. They had called the police on me, and he as I'm sitting in the back of the car, he's running my name or whatever he was doing, and then he informs me, "Oh, well, you're not who we're looking for. I'm going to let you off with a warning," and I get to go home. But I'm thinking to myself, okay, what if I had, been drinking or something, or any other number of different things, and took this as a joke, as it appeared to be at the time. It's like, okay, why am I in the back of a cop car?
Right.
I mean, just somebody of a different personality than me probably would have been shot. You know, looking at a gun late at night at your window, that could have gone a whole load of different ways. And I could be a scenario that we see with the Daniel Prudes and other folks, um, very, very easily. So I am aware that, there are some racist things that still go on. I'm not trying to blanket the Rochester Police Department or all police officers with, that notion that everybody's racist. No, I don't believe that. But there are some things that need to change. We do have a system that was based on a slavery type system in the police department. So it's kind of hard to have hope in something um, looking out for you that wasn't built with you in mind. So I don't know how we get around that. Again, I try my best not to talk about things I don't know. Um, Defunding the police and all of that stuff. I don't have a full understanding of what all that means. So I'm not out there shouting for that. But we do need to look at some things though, and I'm going to leave that to the experts to try and figure that out. But yeah, hopefully we will get there with the
Yeah,
experts.
hopefully we will.
Yeah.
Now, we have so many incidents with police and the Black community. What advice would you have? And I know you said you want to leave this up to the experts, but what advice would you give just to the community as to how we can move forward with our relationship with police officers? Like, how do we could move forward, even with you saying that this system wasn't built for us, right? So it
Right.
wasn't built to protect us. So how do we move forward and feel safe? Now, I'm coming to you as a person of God. How do we move forward and feel safe in a community that was built against us?
I guess prayerfully increasing the communication. Police officers are human, so I guess going with the human side of things and that communication. I remember when I was a kid, they used to have this program, the officer friendly program. You'd have police officers come to your school, and you would, actually have a face with that blue uniform. People you could communicate with, and I'm sure there were probably some of my peers who became police officers because of what they envisioned as the friendly police officer, someone that is truly there to serve and protect you. But like I said, I think communication is very important. Having somebody a part of the police force that's not familiar with the community, I don't think that that's a correct way to go. It's hard for somebody to see you in a certain light if they don't know you. Just like we were talking about, there's people who have misperceptions of me, because they don't know me. Same scenario happens in all aspects of our life. So I think officers need to be trained, if we're still going to work within this system, to get out and know the community. You should have some experience in the community. You should have more knowledge of people of color than just seeing them on TV, or at the point where you're pulling your gun out on them. I think that's kind of ridiculous. So communication,
Okay.
prayerfully.
I will add this. You know that some people have issues with, Christianity,
Oh,
right?
of course, yes.
And as we talk about this system not being built for us, some people have that same idea with religion. And because we came from another country, right? So it is considered in some people's minds that Christianity wasn't built for Black people, because in slavery times, it is believed and somewhere documented that many of the slave masters used the Bible as a way to keep slaves in line and even to condone their actions. Now, what do you say to people who have an issue with that whole religion, the religion of Christianity?
Yeah, well, I have people of all faiths, and I may get in trouble with some of my other Christian colleagues for this, but I believe faith is important in all aspects. I'm not trying to convert my Muslim friends and my Jewish friends to Christianity. That's what drives my faith is Christianity. Just what we see most often, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white Jesus. That isn't the Jesus that I have my faith in. My faith in God doesn't appear in any way, shape, or form in how man has, portrayed my God. Again, I pretty much know he didn't look like that, but that doesn't sway me in any way, shape, or form. My faith is built on relationship, but once again, so I believe the spirit of Christianity drives my faith, and I try to push that towards anyone who's willing to accept it. And maybe it's more of a pull than a push. I don't force my faith on anyone. Even from the pulpit, I'm not forcing it on anyone. So,
No, I understand.
yeah.
So is there anything else that you want to cover that you think that is important for people to know about you, your organization, the church, or what's happening in our community?
I'm a man of faith. I love my community. I'm going to do whatever I can to support my community. I don't care what you look like, what your orientation is, or male, female, anything. If it's a worthy cause, you got to advocate in me. So I'm hoping folks know that, and they feel comfortable coming to me, whatever your issues might be. And hopefully, if I get to a point where I have a need, people will reciprocate on that as well. So um, that's about it. So
Okay, and if people want to stay updated on what you're doing, maybe even visit your church, give us some information so how others can stay updated and connect with you.
okay, well, the church, like I said, we're not currently open, but hopefully it will be soon. I'm guesstimating after the summer we'll be open, but 9 Shelter Street is where Trinity Emmanuel Presbyterian Church is. We are currently recording at 10 o'clock. We might be changing that time when we reopen back to our 11 o'clock. I don't know, but we'll make sure that word gets out. Facebook is always an option. Seems like everybody in the world knows my phone number. So if you need to get in touch with me, phone, email, any of those things. And again, I try to be as visible as I can, even in the community. You may not see me holding up the protest signs at the, protest or anything, but I think you can find me.
Okay, and
So
thank
I'm
you
hoping folks
so much.
will look for me if they need me.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining Toxin Magazine. We appreciate your time, and I look forward to finding out more about Julius D Jackson.
All right, and thank you so much. This was truly an honor. I'm glad to have had this time to have this conversation with you.